Well, it's so good to hear from you.
Yeah, awesome.
And,
You know what? I thought I'd be talking to a man. It's so delightful for me once in a while to actually talk to a girl, you know, a gal. So
yeah,
it's awesome.
Well, we started our radio station on the website. And so
awesome.
we have every Thursday night I have a glam and hard rock live show. So and we actually met you once before when you were in Nova Scotia. And you were doing a show, and so I kind of jumped at the chance to be able to be the one to do it.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Where was I playing?
It was on the South Shore. It was just outside of Bridgewater. And it was when you had just started you had released a jazz album.
So was it a jazz show?
You had some jazz in there with it, along with some of your older stuff. So it was really good.
Oh, I'm trying to remember. It wasn't Rock the River, that festival, was it?
It was, yes.
Yeah, that was mostly a rock show.
Yeah.
That was really fun. Oh, I'd love to come back and do that again. Is that still going?
I think it is, actually. Yeah.
That is awesome. Okay.
Awesome.
Well, cool.
So I have a few questions for you, and then I'm wondering if you would mind doing just a quick sort of radio promo credit for us.
Like station ID?
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem, Morgan.
Excellent. Sure. Perfect. So my first question is, for your musical career, it has obviously evolved from metal to alternative rock to jazz. So how would you classify this album for fans?
Yeah, my career has taken some interesting side diversions, but they're all good, which we can talk about more if you wish to. But this album, I would definitely say it's a straight up rock record. Mm-hmm. That's my opinion of it. It's definitely evolved definitely from more of the hardcore kind of sound. I just feel it's a straight up rock record.
Yeah. Great. I actually have listened to it, and I really enjoyed it. And I really liked the first track on your new album, Tomboy. And I was looking at it and realized it's dedicated to your daughter and that she actually appears in the video. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, I've always sort of believed that the best songs kind of write themselves. And my daughter had approached me and asked me during the writing process, because I sort of was head down at the piano and the guitar. I wasn't, they're like, Mom, trying to get my attention. And she's like, Mom, are you going to write a song for me? And I said, yeah, sure, I'll write a song for you. And then a few days later I thought, well, you can't make a promise to a child that you don't keep. So right. I better get on this. And and again, like the next week I was just doing something banal around the house, and this idea just landed in my head, because my daughter is a tomboy. She's she's 11 now, but at the time she was 10, and she just really marches to her own drum. She's not the type of girl that you're going to find in skirts and dresses, and she's very sure of herself in many ways. She doesn't really buy into all of the media images that are put forth to young women. She's very, I love that about her, and she's very just secure in her own skin. And I thought, there's this energy about 10-year-old girls that's what it's all about. They haven't become self-conscious yet. They're not in the mirror every 20 minutes checking on how they look. They don't care. They're very free-spirited, and I thought that's such a beautiful place to be at. And I think as a woman, the older you get, you mature out of that place of being that self-conscious person, and you become a lot more comfortable in your own skin when you grow up. And certainly that's where I'm at in my life. And so in a weird way, we're kind of in the same place. So I ended up, this idea of writing a song called Tomboy landed in my head, and it just evolved from there. She contributed a couple of little lyric ideas, like I'd rather have I'd rather shoot an arrow than have a tea party. She said, because I said, give me some ideas. She goes, well, I'm not a girly girl, Mom. And I went, okay, wrote down girly girl. I got to fit that into the lyrics somewhere. And so the song really is just sort of about, as it through the writing and recording process. It occurred to me that it's not just a song for tomboys, it's a song for anybody out there that feels like they've been misunderstood and they've had to conform to any kind of, societal or parental pressure to be who they aren't. It's about having the freedom to be yourself without judgment. And so sort of a song of empowerment like that. And that's sort of where the song evolved to. Yeah.
Nice. Actually, when I saw you at the festival here in Nova Scotia, my daughter was with me, and she was about 10 at that time. So if there was like a message you wanted to send to the 10-year-old girls out there, what would that be?
All of the photos are photoshopped. You don't have to look like that. My mother always used to say to me, pretty is as pretty does, which means, you're only as attractive as your actions. So Absolutely. That's the message I'd like to send.
Wonderful. So when we did see you at the Nova Scotia Festival, there were people of all ages there. Some of the adults were a bit intoxicated, and when things started to get a little wild, you actually stopped singing and pointed out the children and asked people to calm down a little bit. Do you think that the metal queen of the 80s who hadn't had children yet would have done that?
That's a tough question because back then I didn't really have children coming to my shows. I hadn't sort of, my audience hadn't grown up with me yet. And so it hadn't evolved to a place where there were multi-generational audiences coming out. Like I did a show here in Vancouver last summer at the Pacific National Exhibition, and it was just the most beautiful thing. I looked out into the crowd and I saw this dad in his probably mid to late 30s, his little 5-year-old daughter on his shoulders, and there was the granddad who was maybe 60 something, right? And I thought, okay, that is a beautiful thing when you're able to cross over to generations and make everybody happy. But yeah, so that it's almost not a fair question. But truthfully, if I'd had children in my audience, let's be honest, the Metal Queen thing was always a bit of just a persona. I did a lot of things during that time frame that, you don't go out and brag about all the charity work that you did. But I used to go visit, to go to the hospital in Halifax to the sick kids ward and visit kids there. And there was this one friend that I made, a young man. I don't want to single him out by saying his name on radio, but he had lost his feet because he had developed a flu virus that turned into toxic shock syndrome, and it was just awful. And every time I came to Halifax, I used to take him out for ice cream.
Nice.
Because that's just, in my heart, that's who I am, that doesn't mean that you can't be edgy and have an opinion, which Absolutely. I certainly have had over the course of my life, right? But yeah, in my heart of hearts, I definitely have a soft spot for children and puppies, as well as ice cream.
Gotta love ice cream.
Yeah.
My personal favorite song on the new album is the final track, Find the Love. And I found your voice was just absolutely beautiful, and you have a little bit of a jazzy feel to it. Can you tell me what the inspiration was for that song? Well,
again, often, like I said, the inspiration for a song, or while you're working through a song, you don't exactly know what the entirety of the song's meaning is until it's finished. This is what I find with the songwriting process. And the inspiration for that song, and I'm reluctant to even say inspiration, but I had a very good friend here locally, mother of 4 children. Like I said, a very good friend of mine, and she had battled off and on with breast cancer, and then she went and had all the surgeries that Angelina Jolie had recently had, because she found out she had the genetic disposition to have it reoccur at a very high rate. And unfortunately it returned, and I got a text. I was up at the lake actually with my kids sitting around with an acoustic guitar writing some songs, and I got the text from her husband saying that it's come back and it's in her bones, and it's stage 4. And I was just, you had to scrape me up off the floor, because this was a beautiful, just the most beautiful person. She was a friend of mine and great mother. And unfortunately, we lost her last June. She had just turned 40, and she left behind 4 children and a husband. And it was my friend Carrie. And so that song was all written in about 10 minutes. I got my guitar out, and that's what occurred. But when the song was completed, I went, this really is a song for anybody who's experienced loss in their life because of a terrible illness. And it's happened to, as the older we all get, the more it's all touched our lives in some ways, right?
For sure. Well, it is beautiful. It's a beautiful tribute, I would say.
Oh, thank you so much.
Are you going to be doing a full tour of the album? Well, that's a good question, because touring doesn't really look the same way that it used to years ago, where you just there's a multitude of venues to play that pay good money, and you can rock across the country. So at this point in time, we're seeing the kind of momentum the album is getting. It's getting actually really, it's been in the top the bestsellers, the top 100 bestsellers. It's been hovering around between about 18 and 20 to 22 in the Amazon.ca bestsellers online. So that's kind of exciting. So an Eastern tour, if we were able to book a couple of anchor dates, like a festival date or two, we would definitely add some dates on and try to hit the major centers like Fredericton, Moncton, Halifax, and there, it's always nice. If we're able to tag on secondary markets too, like Truro and Shediac, or places like that. So, is there willingness to tour? Absolutely. Get on the phone and bug your local promoters, your casinos and your festivals to bring us back and bring us out there. That sounds great. Well, if you do come close to Halifax and Nova Scotia, we will definitely, We Love Metal will be there for sure.
Well, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. So I just have one last question for you, and this is one that we ask everyone that we interview.
No. I'm going to be on that spot, like my bucket list of my 5 best albums.
Not quite that bad. If you could play or tour with any artist, past or present, who would that be and why?
If I could share the stage with any artist, I know this sounds crazy, it would be Sister Rosetta Tharpe. Do you know who that is?
I don't.
Okay. She was a gospel soul singer in the 30s and 40s in America who played guitar, accompanied herself. I mean, this woman was completely badass, let me tell you. And she just had the most incredible voice and played incredible guitar, and hardly anybody knows of her. And I think that all of these, Lita Ford, Joan Jett, Orianthi, all of these amazing female guitar players owe her such a debt. And so many people aren't aware, she was one of the forerunners of the whole rock and roll movement for women, for sure. And, when I sang jazz and blues, like a lot of people misunderstand. They think, oh, Lee Aaron took just abandoned rock and roll and went and sang jazz and blues. And it's like, no, what I was actually doing was exploring rock history, because this is where rock came from, right? And I've always been a person that's been fascinated by cycles and culture and how we get to where we are and who influenced who. And when I discovered Sister Rosetta Tharpe, I was just like, this is mind-blowing. Go look her up on YouTube. Seriously. She's amazing. So if I could tour with anybody, past and present, I would be Sister Rosetta's backup singer if I could.
That sounds great. Well, I will definitely check that out for sure.
Cool.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. That's amazing.
Well, thank you so much.